Okay, I want to go a little bit further in this one. Again, we're going to start building Flappy Bird. So I guess I should start with building the canvas, maybe drawing a background, just kind of setting up the coding, the script document. These were the variables that I'm going to sort of define globally. Maybe I'll put a player object. I think I will, just to kind of talk about objects before we create classes of objects like the pipe. I'll explain that as we go, but we'll at least get some of it started now. So I'm going to switch over to not that. The document. I've got a REPL and HTML5 document started. It just says hello world. I'm going to just go to the script section and start building the canvas. This is the same as we've done before. So let can equal document.create element canvas. I need to get the context, so I'm just going to call that C. Canvas.getContext, the two-dimensional context. Again, that's how we draw. We'll set the width to I don't know what we want to make it. Maybe 800, 600. I guess we could change that at another time, but that's what we'll start with. I'm going to give it a border just so I can see where the box is. So I'll just say 1 pixel solid black for now. And oh yeah, I have to add the canvas to the body of the website. And then it should get appended at the end. So there's my page with the canvas. I might want to get rid of the hello world so I don't have that weird little thing there. So I'll do that in the HTML document and then go back to the script document, and hopefully that looks better. Alright, so there's my canvas. I can create a draw function, and I guess I'll do that now. And we'll define that as something which clears the canvas. I'm going to clear the canvas by drawing a light blue background, kind of representing the sky. So I will say C dot rect, I believe, with a T. And I'll start from 0, 0, the upper left corner, and I'll go to the full width of the canvas and the full height of the canvas. I'll have to set the fill style to, I hope this works, light blue, and then I'll have to fill, and that will essentially clear the screen if I run it. So down below I will run it. Here I define the function, here I run it, and now I have a light blue game window. Alright, it's already looking somewhat good. Now I'm going to define some of the variables. I'm going to do that before I define any functions. So I'm just going to say let score equals 0. You know what, and maybe I'll put the score onto the screen. So after we clear the screen, we'll draw the score. That should probably be last. Maybe that should, so other things that we draw should maybe go in between these two things. The clear, then the score should be just stamped on top of everything, so it's not behind anything. But we'll just say c.fill style equals black. I need to be careful because I always forget the begin path. I'm not exactly sure where it's supposed to go, but I'm just going to start everything with begin path just to be safe. And then fill text score, and my coordinates will be 100 pixels from the left and maybe 50 pixels from the top. I should probably see that font. God, I don't remember what. I think it's just font. 30-point Arial. Let's try that. Draw is not defined. So I've got something wrong in here. Fill it is defined. So I'm guessing that maybe this isn't correct. Font, I don't know what that is supposed to be. Draw is not defined on 27. Well, that didn't fix it. What have I done wrong? Oh, I gotta finish this. Well, I'll just get rid of it for now. Okay, that is working. Good. Maybe I'll go left to not do full 100, but 50. That looks good. Yeah, that does look good. Okay, so then we'll always draw the score. So that's the draw function. Clears and then puts the score on the board. We not only need the score, we need the, I guess we will define gravity, which I'm going to call minus 0.1. We'll play with that later. What else do I need here? I need score, I need gravity, I need the gap half height, I need the gap width, and I need the gap speed, or the pipe speed. So that looks good. So let me put that in. So let the gap width equal, we'll say 100 pixels. Let the gap height, half height, equal, I don't know, 150. And then let the pipe speed equal minus 1, because it'll be going to the left. And did I need anything else? I got score already, so I think that's good. All right, good. So I've got my variables in. Now what I'm going to do is define the player. And that's how I'm going to start, by defining the player. So right now I have a player equal to empty curly brackets, which represents an object. So an object with nothing about it. So that is like, I'm going to pause this for a second and pull up a picture, and then I'll explain it in terms of the picture. Alright, I couldn't find the actual sheet that I was looking for, but this kind of goes over it. Objects have, so this paper here could represent kind of like how an object is structured. The idea is that there's a class, or, well, we'll get into that later. But objects have properties. They have like variables that they have within themselves. So just like how we can make a variable in the program, objects can have their own variables, and they also have their own internal functions. I'll have to make, I guess, a separate video that explains that a little bit in more detail. But you can kind of think of these as things that are specific to the objects that include both variables and functions. So it's kind of like a program, like a container for kind of programs. So imagine that I have a class of object called a person, and you can have different instances of a person. So for instance, person 1, the first person I'm looking at, could have a name. They could have an address where they live. They could have an occupation. Those could all be properties: name, address, occupation. And they could also have methods or functions. So for instance, there could be a method called change name. There could be a method called move to new location. There could be a method called get a different job. So there are objects with properties, and then they have methods which usually allow you to change those properties. So person 1 could be Bob, living in Sterling, works as an engineer, and his methods. So he could change his name, he could get a different job or move. And then another person has the same properties, he's the same type of object, but he could be Jim, he could live in Rock Falls and work as a manager, and have the same methods, but that's kind of the idea, that data is stored, which are called the properties of the object, and subroutines, what we call methods, are stored within the object, that are things that the object can do. So for instance, you could have a method for sleep or wake up. You could have a method for eat or go outside to get dressed. These are all actions, these are all methods, but you also have properties like height, weight, favorite color, best friend, whatever, telephone number. You have properties which are numbers or like age. They could be text like favorite restaurant. They could be other objects like pet. Oh, that could be a dog object with its own name and its own location and its own favorite food. So you could also store objects. So anyway, going back to our program, curly brackets makes an object. So I can set attributes of the object like player dot x, that's the x position. I could make it set to 0. Player dot y I could set to also 0. Maybe I'll set that to the height was 600, so maybe I'll set it to 300, so it's right in the middle at the start. And maybe I'll go 100 from the left. So that's the player's starting position. Now to see what I have, I can console.log the player object and see what that is. I see that it's curly brackets with inside of it things. So it's kind of like an array where we use square brackets and put things in a list with commas. It's kind of like that, but it's more like what sometimes is called a dictionary, where you have key value pairs. So you have a key and then you have a value and they're paired, so you can look up x. So I could say, what is player.x? And it should tell me 100. And it says 100. What is player.y? Should say 300 now. So you can get these various attributes or set them in this way. You can create the attributes for an object just by saying player.whatever equals whatever you want. So player.name equals Bob. And if I look at player, he now has a name attribute of Bob. So that's how you kind of make a player. So we're going to start, so that's our player. We're going to start with an X and a Y. That's good. So the player is an X and a Y. We're also going to give the player a method, which is draw. So I'm going to say player.draw, and I'm going to make that equal to a function. It will take no arguments, so I don't have to put anything here that I need to pass in. But there's going to be a draw function that that draws the player on the screen. So just to start with, I'm going to draw just a rectangle. So I'm going to say begin path, and I need a period there. And we'll start it at the player. Because I'm inside of the player right now, I'm defining a method inside of the player. I think I got to say this.x for the coordinate and this.y. That's where I'm going to begin to draw my rectangle. And I'm going to make this, I don't know, the player will be maybe 20 by 20 pixels wide. So we'll see how that looks. And we'll draw that. Oh, I'm sorry, that should, begin path doesn't take anything. So that's begin path. This will be rectangle. So that's how I make the rectangle. I need to set a fill style, orange, and I need to say fill, and that should draw my player whenever I call it. I don't need that anymore. Well, yeah, I'll delete that so you can see what I got. So now I have a draw function inside of my player. So when I draw, I clear the screen. I put the score on the screen. In between there, I'm going to say draw the player. And we will say player dot draw, and that should draw the player. And it did not. So let's see. I don't see the player. Fill style orange, fill, rectangle, begin path. That looks good to me. Maybe this doesn't work. Let me try. It's gotta work. Let me see if there's errors. Probably are. No, unfortunately, I'm not getting any complaints. That's unfortunate. So begin path, rectangle, fill style, fill. That should all work. Let me try to pass in the context. Maybe it's having some sort of issue there. So what if I pass in the context? It doesn't like that. For what? 51. Draw 37. That should be fine. Oh, not fill, sorry. Player.draw. Still not seeing it. I have no idea why not. Player.draw. I'm going to take that out because I don't think that's necessary. It does begin path. You know what? I do not know. Let me try player dot. I don't really like this. I don't think that's the way it's supposed to be. Let's see if that works though. It works. So I guess I'll leave it. But can I do dark orange? Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, there's the player. So now let's do. The player needs a vertical velocity, so I'm going to say player.vy equals 0, and we'll put that in there. So there's a vy, and then we'll say player.move. That's also going to be a function. That's going to be a method for the player. And what this will do is say player.y plus equals, so we're going to add to the y value the player.vy, the y velocity, so it'll change, and then the y velocity will also change by the amount of gravity. So in our case, gravity was, actually gravity should probably be positive, because positive is down on a canvas, so we want it to go down, so I'm going to have a small gravity. We're going to change the speed to increase by the amount of gravity, and then change the position to change by the amount of its current speed, and that'll be the move function. So I do player.draw, and that looks good. Now what I want to do is establish a game loop where this thing will just keep on changing all the time. It'll move and draw, move and draw, move and draw. So I'm going to set up a main function. And we're just going to say player.move and draw. And then I just want to run this main function a lot. So I'm going to say set interval. And then I'm going to say main, and we're going to run this every 100 milliseconds. And then let's see what that does. And you can see that my bird falls, and that's about all I can do right now. So that's the beginning of this. Let me just get a keyboard thing going so that you can make the bird kind of flap up. We can also speed this up to see what that looks like. So he falls a little bit better. We'll add air resistance so he doesn't keep accelerating forever in the next video, but for now let's just get the keyboard thing going. So we'll just say canvas.on. I'll do document.on key press. That'll be a keyboard event that we pass in, and we will say if e.key equals what is it? It's a space. Then we will say player.vy is equal to -20, maybe -10, and let's see what that does. That didn't work. E.key space. Player.vy, I think that's what we had, yeah. All right, so let's see if I'm getting, do I have to be focused on the document? No, that didn't work. Let's see. Am I getting anything? Alert e.key. Oh, it's just like a space. Okay. I'm just going to put a space in there. Let's see how that runs. Okay. So it goes up way too much, so maybe we'll do it to like -4. Okay. So we got the beginning of Flappy Bird. Next, we'll create objects of type. We'll make the game run a little bit better, but we'll make more objects, kind of like how we made the bird. But we're going to make them in a slightly different way, because instead of having just one pipe, like we have one bird, we want to have lots of pipes coming at regular intervals. So it's going to be a little bit different, but this notion of having an object with its own properties and its own methods that we have is what we're going to be doing next. We're going to kind of bundle everything into what we call objects. So I hope that made sense, and I will see you in the next video.